Good evening, and welcome to the first episode of SDGC for the new year.
Holy shit!
What is it, Derek?
Hot.
2037?
20XX, where it will remain forever.
Oh man, dude, it feels like.
Do you mind maybe moving your mic gain down to like 4 o'clock?
Is that better?
Maybe a little higher than that. You were just peeking out real bad all of a sudden.
Is that better?
That's beautiful. Perfect.
All right. Well, we will have to figure this out. What the fuck is going on with my mic?
Yeah,
at some
something's
point.
up. Something's up.
Yeah, something's not right. But first podcast of the new year. Boy, 2024 sure was a fucking thing, wasn't it? Oh god, it's already starting to chat. I'm gonna fucking pre, dude. It's already starting in chat.
Thanks, everybody.
Derek, you're muted. Either that or I can't hear you anymore. You are okay. Now you're not. Now you're not.
No.
All right. That was really weird. Your mouth was moving, but nothing was happening. Shut the fuck up, Derek. Jesus
I was
Christ.
shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my god. So
I listen sometimes.
So tonight's forecast for or the format, not the forecast for tonight's podcast.
The forecast
so we're gonna,
is Dick Blizzard in the Midwest, unfortunately.
Derek's
but that's not till the
blizzard.
window.
Or
the window, the weekend.
Do you want to explain to people what you mean by
yeah,
Dick Blizzard?
there's an Arctic storm sweeping from around Kansas through to almost Virginia, and the path it's taking on AccuWeather looks exactly like a dick. It's just a dick. But it's upside down,
Perfect.
so like the head is like a little like the belt. It's you
the
get
balls
it if you
are
saw
like
it.
the balls are on the top.
No,
the balls
it
are
doesn't
on the
matter.
top.
It's fine. It's fine. Welcome to 2025, motherfuckers.
Yeah, it's already a fucking podcast.
We took a couple weeks off and
sort of. I did stream
mouthwashing, which was an
I'm
experience.
going to talk about. I finished it that night. I finished it after the stream ended.
Yeah, we had a good conversation about that one.
And I've got some shit to say about that, Derek. But the other thing we're going to do tonight is we are going to talk. I just saw your title for tonight's podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy, that hits really, really hard.
You mean I have to do this for a whole nother year?
We are going to talk about. We're going to talk about some Switch 2 stuff because there's so many leaks at this point that we can't not address it.
Yeah, you know, I look, like, I and this is largely a me thing, like putting my thumb on the scale. I don't like getting too deep into leak and rumor territory, but like at this point, there's so much real shit that is out there about the Switch 2 that it's like. This is the leaky. The ship's not leak. It's the Titanic. Like, just do an announcement.
I think we can. I mean, most of the shit that we know now is either confirmed or heavily intimated.
You've
to be
got
true,
like
so.
Journalists backing up a lot of what they're seeing.
Yeah,
and but anyway, we'll kind of get into that later in the show.
We'll get into all that. We'll get into all that in a bit. I agree. But for now, as always. We're going to talk about what we're drinking. I'm drinking an old-fashioned to ring in the new year. Derek, what about you?
You know what? In honor of our fallen goon sister, Britt, who is not with us, I got the Gooch Hooch.
Derek, that's a sweet SDGC glass. Kind of like it looks like
it
this
is.
One.
It's
we
really
need to start selling merch again this year.
Maybe. I don't know.
Hey, we do have shirts and glass and mugs and all
do
that. We do, and every single
I keep
dollar
forgetting that there's a store. We need to really like update that store.
We do, and every single dollar goes to.
I wouldn't know because we get none of the money. Like you said, it all goes to charity. But
it all goes to charity, all of it.
But we should probably double check the charities we're sending money to again because things happen.
But at any rate, so we're going to talk about. Let's start with what we've been playing as always. And Derek, if you don't mind, I would like to go first this time.
Absolutely.
So. I streamed mouthwashing the other week.
We're gonna keep this talk relatively spoiler free, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like depending on I might check out because I am not. I'm not gonna able to play mouthwashing yet, and I really, really want to, but I also know I should go in blind. So
no. There's not going to be any. There's not going to be any spoilers here. Derek, are you just trying random?
I thought it would be on one of those commands because I had it set up at one point, and I think it's gone.
I'll find after I'm done finding out.
We'll look into it. Yeah.
I'll pull the link up after I'm done talking. But so I played Mouthwashing, which is this. Who was the developer of this fucking thing again?
It's a small dev. I don't know that they've done anything meaningful before.
I don't know, but I mean they're on the fucking radar now. This game in 2024 became like a cultural thing. Like it was part of the zeitgeist and the
I would say caught
like
on
the second half of the year,
September, and like it slowly picked up and it really blew up in like a lot of the like game like journalist circles that we're in, which is what brought it to my attention, at least.
It is a genuinely disturbing, nightmarish experience.
Really affecting, like psychological horror.
Really, like I was extremely put off by this game in a good way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
This game bothered me. It disturbed me. It has some of the most morally reprehensible subject material in any game I've ever played.
But in a way that doesn't feel exploitative or for shock value.
Right.
Like they're telling a very clever story here.
Well, here's the thing, Derek. Here's the thing. And you know, I wouldn't call myself a
like one of the main characters is explicitly patterned after Shelley Duvall, right? Like that tells you the frame of mind.
So hold on. I wouldn't call myself a misanthrope, but I generally don't like people, which is why I feel confident in saying that this game also tells this game tells a very human story.
Yes.
And specifically all of the really dark, horrible shit that human beings are capable of. I streamed about 2 hours of it, Derek. I'd say probably about
something
2 hours.
Like that. So maybe a little more than half, I would say.
Yeah,
you cut off right-ish. It was getting crazy.
But I finished like an hour later, like off stream. I finished it. I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna finish it tonight because I know it's only like another hour and a half. So I went ahead and I powered through it. I have been thinking about that game since Thursday. And it's one of those games where I liken it to Edith Finch.
Yeah, in a way.
In that, and what I mean by that is, it was a deeply affecting game that I consider to be a work of art in the medium that I don't ever want to play again. I have never played. I've played Edith Finch. I played Edith Finch, or What Remains of Edith Finch, once. Years and years and years ago, and I haven't touched it since, and I never will again because that one time was all I needed. It was perfect. And this is much the same way. I feel like the story, the message that game is trying to convey, won't hit as hard the second time.
I think it's a story that you get through and then you sit and you let it digest and you let it roll around. And I think that's the way. There are games where you continue to interface with them, right? You engage in communion with a game by playing it. But there are some games like Mouthwashing, right, where you finish the story and your communion is to let it sit and let it fester. And I think that even that way of changing the way you relate to a game and its story is really interesting.
Now, I do want to say this, and I wish I'd included this in my stream. Had I been aware of the game's content, I would have.
Yeah.
But this game comes with serious content warnings.
Yeah, I think a lot of the most serious stuff that is most likely to be directly triggering for people is stuff that is more like left vaguely explained, but you can clearly pick up on the hints of. But there's some shit in there that's rough.
I'm going to be completely blunt. If you are a victim of sexual assault, and that sort of stuff,
just know that that's a thing that you're going to engage with.
Like strong trigger warning. If you are somebody who deals with suicidal ideation, strong trigger warning. If you are somebody who just generally, if you are trying to avoid dark, depressing, miserable material, stay away from this.
Yeah.
If you're, I would go so far, like this game affected me to the point where I would go so far as to tell you, if you are in a dark place in your head right now, don't play mouthwashing.
See, you know, I don't know. I think it can depend because when I played mouthwashing, I can be semi open about this, not all the way, obviously. Don't worry, guys. I have been in a pretty dark spot since Thanksgiving, right? Like December was bad for me. December was like, this has maybe been the worst several week stretch I've had in my adult life, not counting like finding my mom's corpse last year. You know what I mean? And there was something weirdly cathartic in the experience of mouthwashing as an examination of guilt and of blame and of, you know, taking ownership or failing to take
your responsibility.
Yep. So I don't know. I was in literally about as dark a place as a human can possibly get to around the time I was playing this game, and to me it felt there was something kind of darkly beautiful to it. It was not very ugly, triggering,
profane way.
Yes, compared to, like, again, for those who were watching and listening, y'all may remember during the Game Awards, I had to openly like take my headphones off when they were doing the Arcane music because one of the songs is about, well, yeah, it's rough stuff, and like I had to take it off because I knew it was going to be triggering hearing that song. So, but I mean, I think the larger point is like mouthwashing is a very heavy game about very heavy subject matter, and also horses. So if you don't like horses,
if you don't like horses, this game's gonna fuck with you.
I don't
hard.
like horses,
I'm not even gonna. I don't like their long faces. I don't like their enormous penises. I don't like nothing about horses.
John, do I have an I think you should leave sketch just for you?
Something about horses just really fucking bothers me.
They're horrible animals. They're horrible animals.
They're very. I don't know. I see a horse and I feel like it's gonna fucking like take my money. I
see a horse and I believe in God, but not a kind one. Like that's where I'm at in life.
Sure. No. So like, you know.
So mouthwashing.
No, I actually. No, Dorian. I have actually seen a moose. You think I've never seen a camel? Dorian, think about where I've been. Think about what I've done in my life. You think I have never ridden on a camel before? Because I have. And
John is very sure he can fight a moose.
I can absolutely fight a moose and win because it's not about the fucking size of the combatant. It's about the cunning of the combatant. Now, I will say that I was in Colorado recently for work and I did see a moose. I was not aware that they were there, but those motherfuckers are big. Those are big boys.
It's a lot of aminal.
Those are big boys. I actually ate a camel's flesh once, believe it or not.
Just like
an
talk
apple, about video games, man.
Right
I just took a bite right out of its raw ass leg, Justin.
We're gonna talk about video games.
Did you bet on the scorpion or the camel spider in the fighting pit? The camel spider every fucking time. Every fucking time.
I hate those things. I hate those things so much.
Camel. I introduced Derek to camel spiders.
No, you didn't. I've known about camel spiders since I was young.
Really? I thought I was the one who told you about camel spiders.
No, you told me a horrifying story about them that I was but no, I have known about camel spiders for a long time because they were in a book of bugs I had when I was young.
Yeah, they're bad. Camel spiders, not good.
I had never seen. When I was my first time in Iraq, we were outside of Fallujah. We'd set up like a little fob and we set up like this shower tent. And inside the shower tent, I was a Lance Corporal. And it was me. It was like 2004. It was me, like some sergeant and like a captain. and everybody's in the shower tent, and all of a sudden the captain goes, "What the fuck?" And we look down, and there's this enormous alien-looking creature sitting in the sand on the ground, and we all three of us jumped up on the fucking table, like 3 grown-ass Marines in a war zone jumped up on the fucking table, and we were like, "What the fuck is that? Holy shit!" And so the captain pulls out his K-bar, which if you don't know what that is, it's a 12-inch long knife, and he stabbed it and leaped away, and the camel spider just started trying to run away and take the knife with it. And so he grabs the knife, gets a thing of lighter fluid, douses the camel spider with it, flicks his lighter, lights it on fire, and the thing was like thrashing on this knife, and he marches through the tents with it held high, singing "God Bless America." It was really something. It was really something. Camel spiders don't die. If you've been in the military and you've come across a camel spider, you know this.
I think I'd rather talk about the fucking stuff in mouthwashing than talk about camel spiders.
I'm just telling you, Derek.
With you.
We caught a camel spider. My second deployment, named it Earl, and we used to feed it chicken wings from the from the DFAC. And it would just, dude, these things have fucking jaws. It would just rip the chicken. Like, dude, Earl was just on another fucking level,
man.
I could tell you, this is now a fucking. No, it's this not. Is now a Marine Corps.
No, it's not, dude.
All right. Transition time.
Yeah.
Speaking of camels, I've been playing a game that has some camels in it.
There we go, Justin.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Hell yeah, brother!
Oh, that game is so good, dude. Oh, it's so fucking good.
Tell me about your time with Indy.
That game has really taken me by surprise. Like, I love machine games, love Indiana Jones. I was not particularly enthused by what I had seen before release, but I am so glad that this game came out the way it did. I love how they didn't, because I know when it was first announced, there was just like, oh, it's just going to be Uncharted or Tomb Raider with the actual Indiana Jones license, but it's not, which is like,
yeah,
it's not the type of game that you'd think it would be, but it also works perfectly for Indiana Jones. Like, it has very light immersive sim stuff, disguises, little bit of like Dishonored and Hitman in there, but also just some really, really good puzzles. It's been a while since I played like a big AAA game that actually had like real good puzzles. And the exploration's great, story's great. Troy Baker actually does a fantastic job with his Harrison Ford impersonation. It's really
very,
very good.
Like I like to sometimes take a big fat dump all over Troy Baker, but dude, he fucking pulls it off here, man.
He's really good actor. He's a very cringe human being, but he's a very good actor. Yeah.
He nails like a lot of the little mannerisms and stuff, not just the delivery. It's great. I finished it up the other night. I had a blast with it. Like, there's definitely a number of issues, but like, it just brings you in so much. And I love how that game uses first person. I love it. Like, the way that the camera bobs as you move. So much of the game is just looking closely at, walls and artifacts and things like that. It almost feels like a VR experience. Like, it honestly, playing it feels like the PSVR 1 games where you had to control them with a regular controller and stuff. It's such a cool use of this type of design, and I've always been a big fan of like immersive sims and stuff, but it's not an easy genre to get into. It has not been a genre that's traditionally particularly successful. And the other thing about it is there's not really like, you either love them or you don't, and there's not really many things you can recommend to be like, oh, you should play this before like going off and deeper into that kind of game. It's like we finally have something that is a very mass market friendly light version of that can get people into that type of game, which is very exciting for me, because I love those games, and a lot of studios that make them have ended up in bad shape, and it's really unfortunate. This was done by Machine Games, who I love. I love their Wolfenstein games. They put their hatred of Nazis.
They know how to take care of Nazis.
They do. The first time I snuck up behind a Nazi with a sledgehammer, hit him in the nuts from behind, and then broke it over his face. Beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful.
Can we, Justin, can we mention that opening the game with a recreation of Raiders of the Lost Ark was just brilliant?
I actually hated that part of the game. It was by far my least favorite.
I loved it. I loved it.
The segment wasn't fun.
I thought it was cool.
The character animations and mocap aren't quite good enough to really sell. I did not like that part, and then immediately after that, the game got way better for me.
See, I really love, but I mean, then again, Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite film of all time, so I might be a little biased.
Also, one thing that nobody else has ever mentioned and nobody else will ever care about, but it was super cool to me personally. So, I went to Franklin and Marshall College. Indiana Jones teaches at Marshall College.
Oh.
From before, it's a different campus than the one I went to, but it was before the two schools combined, because Marshall College had all the money and no students. Franklin College had all the students and no money. So basically they merged.
Gotcha.
So as soon as you finish the tutorial, you're exploring Marshall College. They got the logos, they got the insignias, they got the motto and everything correct. And I had to know all this trivia because I was on staff and I had to teach the freshmen like when they came in one year. So, because like our motto is actually combining the Latin mottos of each of the schools, and so the Marshall one is correct. And there's actually a place where you can see the Marshall College crest with a picture of Ben Franklin right next to it. So that was really cool. Like, they did their research on that, and it's something that literally I'm the only one that will pick up on. But it was super. I had a blast with it. And they nail the tone and presentation. The story is good. It's classic Indiana Jones.
Very pulpy. Yep.
Yeah. The performance of the main villain, Emmerich Voss, is phenomenal. Just it got everything right that you would hope it would get right in an Indiana Jones game, but also it takes kind of some disparate elements that you wouldn't have initially expected in this sort of game and blends them to actually create something that feels pretty unique. Like, the individual pieces have been done before, but they haven't been combined in quite this way. And it turned out great. I highly recommend it. It's gorgeous. I just loved walking around in the world in this game, and just I had a blast. It really took me by surprise with how much I enjoyed it. Like, I always knew there would be a baseline enjoyment of it. I love Machine Games, I love Indiana Jones, but it's a really unique, cool game that I think people should check out.
Justin, I do want to address something that one of our mods, Mick, said in chat, and it has to do with the stealth in Indiana Jones. And this isn't just specific to Indiana Jones, because a lot of games do this. But one thing I did notice, and I was like, why is he doing that? Is in Indiana Jones and so many other games, but like, I'm just going to use Indiana Jones as the baseline here because that's what we're talking about. When you crouch and you go into stealth mode and you're sneaking around, like, I know you're in a first-person position, right? Like you're looking, but his hands are like, as you're sneaking around, his hands are just waving up and down. And I'm like, look, I have been in situations where I've had to be a bit stealthy, and I don't move like I'm shaking.
Maybe you
like
could have been stealthier. Maybe you were doing it wrong.
Yeah, like you didn't have the technique right, John.
I mean, it's possible.
Maybe you were being suboptimal in your stealth.
I think Indiana Jones knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that Indiana Jones.
Professor.
I mean, he is a professor, right?
I think Indiana Jones has killed more Nazis than you have, John. So
that's fine. I mean, look, it's not a competition, okay? Like,
Oh, it absolutely is a competition.
It kind of is. It kind of is a competition. Yes, like Skyrim, and too many games. I feel like too many games do that because when you're in a first person view, you're looking straight ahead. You are in the mind. You are in the head of that character, right? And I simply refuse to believe. I simply refuse to believe that anyone, when they crouch down and they're sneaking, is like literally tiptoeing around like they're trying to feel their way in the dark to the bathroom, like they're trying to find the light switch in the bathroom. Because I do this shit at like 3 a.m. when all the lights are out and I don't want to wake Vicky up and I've got to use the bathroom. So I'm walking to the bathroom like this, right? I'm like, oh fuck, I can't feel where. Oh shit, that's the dresser. Like nobody when they're being stealthy walks like this. So I don't know why Indy does it.
This is really good podcast content. You just doing this and saying nothing.
I'm fucking explaining it, Derek, for people who are just listening. All right.
I love how that is your complaint about the stealth when this is a game where you can get away with doing something like, okay, so how it works, like when you're in disguise, as like if you get caught stealing something, it breaks your disguise. I did find a place where I could stand directly behind a guy that was looking at something I wanted to take. And I could reach out in front of him and grab it because I was technically behind him and he didn't notice. I like how your complaint about the stealth is just the way he moves his arms.
It's not so much a complaint. It's just like, but people don't sneak like that. People don't sneak like that. They don't.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, everybody is always wandering around in a priest uniform while carrying a bullwhip in the Vatican City.
That's another thing that bothered. Well, and like as when you're in your priest outfit and you just like whip yourself to the top of a scaffolding and like right. like there's some old priest watching you. He's like molto bene, and you're like, what? Like, what? Do priests just do this shit in the Vatican that nobody is saying anything to me? Like, I get it's a video game, but like I'm not going to say those moments take me out of the game, but they do make me chuckle. Does that make any sense, Justin?
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. Also, like, just downing like a load of bread to restore your health.
Yeah, like I've been shot 3 times in the chest. Thank God I got this half a loaf of sourdough that I found in the
video games
locker.
Though. That's all video games.
In a way,
one fun thing though about the bread and the fruit, it actually changes what types of bread and fruit you can find in each region, and there's several kinds. It will track which ones you had in which order, so you'll like pull out like just various types of bread.
Oh yeah, no, I had Indy eat a fucking lemon once, and I was like, there's no way that he just took a big bite out of it. That was like some Simpson shit. Like, he took a big bite, and his lip just crawled into his fucking mouth. Like, it just I couldn't help but think of that. But Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, in a way, Justin, like the gameplay loop kind of reminds me of Dishonored a little bit.
Oh, it absolutely does. Arcane Leon did actually collaborate a little bit with Machine Games for level design and helped them. Like it was Machine Games did all the development stuff, but they kind of gave them some tips because they wanted to take that kind of approach. So it was actually heavily influenced by Dishonored.
That makes sense. Derek.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about, man? Talk about games. Talk about
some games. So I'm going to speed run because it is already 9:30.
Who gives a shit? This is our podcast. We set the tone. We set the pace.
But
who gives a fuck, Derek?
I do. I require structure in life. Also, like, I just don't have like a ton to say about most of these, right? In the last couple of weeks that we've not done like a traditional show, and also as I've been like taking a little time to take it easy and recover some, I've burned through some video games. I played Deliver Us the Moon, which is fine. I don't strongly recommend it. It's fine. It's a walking simulator-y kind of sci-fi game. That's kind of neat, I guess.
That's okay. I thought you were talking about To the Moon. Okay, Deliver Us the Moon.
Deliver Us the Moon. It's fine. It's interesting enough, I guess. I just don't have like I played it and I don't have strong opinions, and I want that to be my review to people who were like, I've been considering this game. I don't know, man. There's better uses of your time. I did play and beat Shadow Generations. The newly released pack-in with the Sonic Generations re-release. Shadow Generations is good as fuck. And I was a doubter, and I should have listened to CJ when he said it was real fucking good, because it's real fucking good.
I kind of want to play it. I haven't played any Sonic games in quite a long time.
It's genuinely
been a long time.
Here's the thing. I have very fond memories of Sonic back in the day, right? And the problem is that ever since like Sonic Heroes, they've just all been bad. They just all, I mean, like Sonic Colors was pretty good, and then Sonic Generations was really good, but then they like fell off again. I didn't like Lost World. I didn't like Frontier, even though everyone loved Sonic Frontier.
I did.
Frontier is one of the ones I was considering trying. I'm trying to decide.
I think it's dog shit. I don't know how people enjoyed that game. It feels
there are
like
really
trash.
like the only real good 3D Sonic game is Colors.
And Generations is really good. But Shadow Generations is maybe the most polished, well-designed, fun to play one of these games out there. It's very fucking good. What else? Oh, I played and beat Final Fantasy IX because I needed comfort food, and 9 is maybe my favorite in the franchise. So that was a really good time, and I think that helped recenter some of my mental health a little bit, because just truly beautiful game, beautiful story, beautiful cast, beautiful themes. Cannot recommend it enough, especially if you play on PC with the Moguri mod, just for a couple of quality life improvements.
I didn't like the like. It's still like I appreciate what the Moguri mod does, and
you
they,
want that crunchy SD look with the big pixels.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But like
Moguri mod can throw like the old font in. You know what I mean? Which I know is a big deal for you.
No, it can. But like what it can't do, and this isn't a Moguri mod problem. They busted their asses to put that together. This is a Square problem. Final Fantasy IX was just a shitty port. It was a terrible fucking port.
I don't know that I agree with that, but
no, they didn't even bother removing the no emoticons allowed thing for console.
Right. Like, okay, in that regard, but
the character models are super high res. The backgrounds haven't been touched at all. It looks like crap. Everything looks smeared. And it's just like, thankfully, I think ports like that are of a bygone era for Square now. I think they're taking this stuff more seriously with a new CEO. But I tried the Moguri mod on, and I just like, I can't get over the fact that I just hate the way it looks. Like the base game looks on PC and consoles. I can't get past it.
I don't know. Anyway, Final Fantasy now was a great fucking time. And it was the thing I needed at this time. And then the last thing that I played was I started playing MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. I don't know why it took me so long to try MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. It's been sitting in my Steam library untouched for a couple of years, but I finally did it, and it's fucking good. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you have fond memories of MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, especially, which a lot of the like classic PC gaming audience does, I mean, you got fond memories of MechWarrior in general. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is a wonderful time. It's approachable enough that I think somebody can just pick up like a controller and play it and get into it. But it's a game for sickos. And I'm a big robot sicko. So
I thought you were going to say you were a big robot.
I am also a big robot. I'm a big meat robot, piloted by a weird little ball of electricity sending impulses along.
I thought you were going to say
wires.
I thought you were going to say you were piloted by one of those little green aliens, like in Men in Black. the Orions on galaxies, or the galaxies on Orion's belt.
Yeah, I also watched the original Men in Black.
Dude, that movie holds the fuck up.
It's a fun movie. But yeah, MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries was a really good time. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. Just because, like, I'm having a good time. I've put a lot of time into it. I'm starting to feel like, does it mean a lot to me to just keep doing the thing that I'm doing? Because there's a story, but it's not really a very story-driven game. But yeah, I'm having a good time. My real question is what I'm going to do until Monster Hunter comes out, if we're being honest with ourselves, because that's everything goes in the trash at the end of February. So I can't start anything.
It's really that soon, isn't it?
I can't start any game that might take me that long to finish because then I won't finish it.
Derek, I have two things I want to say real quick. One, you mentioned I just want to say my son yesterday this isn't video game related, but it's important. He had his first viewing of True Lies last night. I've never seen a kid that happy. I was so relieved. I was like, oh, please love True Lies like your father. And he's been quoting that shit all day. He's like his football team lost, and he's like, stop cheering me up. Like it was so good. What a fucking that was the one thing, Admo, is that like he had to watch the pole dance scene like with me and his stepmother. So you could see him just squirming in his seat. He's like, man, I really hope this ends soon. I don't want to watch this with my parents.
I'm really not sure how we got on this subject.
You mentioned you'd watched a movie. And so I decided to talk about a movie as well.
A movie you brought up.
Yeah, I did, Derek. You got a fucking problem with that?
No.
That's what the fuck I thought.
Just laughing.
And the other thing I wanted to say was I don't remember where I was going with that.
Cool.
So I actually have nothing else to say.
Great. Fantastic, bud. You're doing great. You're doing so good.
Derek, I can drop from the call if you want, pal.
No, that's not what I want.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I got a gift card for Christmas, so I bought myself some nice headphones because I keep buying decent ones that keep breaking every couple years, and it's like, how about I just actually spend the extra money and get something good that's going to last and can be used across multiple devices? So I did.
What did you get?
I got the Arctis. The Arctis Steel Series Nova 7X. I think that's the order all of those words go in. I don't know.
Gaming products.
I'm wearing the Arctis Pro right now. They're fucking great. The wired ones. If we're
talking Christmas grabs, so
these are the wireless ones. So I'm gonna check out some stuff with those when they arrive tomorrow. I think I might pick up Silent Hill 2. I have heard that has very good audio, and I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet.
Justin.
And it's still on sale for like a couple more days.
Justin, you're gonna shit yourself, bud.
Dude, Derek, can you imagine getting through Toluca prison with headphones on?
Yes, John, I can imagine it. I did it, in fact, on like a nice PC setup.
That's right. You were wearing cans
with these with the $500 open back Sennheisers. Yes.
All I'm gonna tell you, Justin, is like if I could sum up the sound design of Silent Hill 2 in one word, it would be skittering.
Fuck that game. I love it. Fuck.
Skittering.
If we're talking Christmas grabs, I do want to give one shout out, which is that my wife got me an MMO mouse, with the like bunch of buttons on the side, specifically so that I would have something to assist me in this game that I play with John and Britt. So I just think
speaking of that, Derek, are we rocking out after the podcast?
Probably not after I got work early in the morning, but like definitely. Well, fuck you. But probably tomorrow night I could be down. But I just think that's very, very sweet that my wife got me a thing specifically for fun times with two of my besties. I think that's really, really sweet.
That is really fucking sweet.
Yeah.
That is super sweet. And Derek, there is one thing that I didn't mention that I'm playing, but I'm just going to say what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going through the Dominus collection.
Yeah, great time. Did that already.
Great fucking 3 of the best. I would say Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia, 3 of the best Castlevania games. All of them.
I think it's the best run in the series. While none of them are the best game, I think that the 3 of them make the best run.
I would agree with you. Yeah, like none of them are better than Symphony of the Night, but all 3 of them in a row in one package. It's just a flawless package.
It's disgusting. It's so good. So. Let's talk some news. So we got a very newsy subject first before we go into the fun wish listy stuff. So this is inspired by an article that I saw going the rounds on social media and on a couple message boards that is incorrect, but it inspired me to think about this subject.
Yeah, this headline has a pretty big asterisk on it.
Yeah. The headline of this article was that Nintendo is the only major gaming company to have had no layoffs in 2024.
Not
now,
true.
That's not correct, both in terms of, I think the spirit of that headline makes it sound like Nintendo did not get rid of employees, and they did, but they were all contract employees, which is a thing that, we'll get into that. And the other side of it is that there are other major game companies that did not do layoffs in 2024. So it's not true that Nintendo is unique in this regard. But it did get me thinking. We opened up last year talking about this horrid wave of layoffs we saw through the fall and into the winter. Like January 2024 was what we thought we were looking at a bloodbath, and we didn't realize how bad the layoffs were going to get all the way through 2024. So I wanted to talk about 2024's big winners and losers in the layoffs category, right? Who are some of the companies that were the worst when it came to layoffs, most unnecessary, and who are the companies that avoided layoffs, and why do we think they were able to avoid it? The one thing I kind of want as a caveat to this conversation is we mean layoffs, not contract employees finishing their contract.
Right. There's a huge distinction.
Yes, because like that's one of the things that I saw a lot of people arguing back and forth about with Nintendo is like, yes, Nintendo did let go of a bunch of employees, but they were contractors whose contract had a scheduled end date, and some of them were hired on to full time and some of them weren't. And that's a thing that happens. Correct. That's what contract work is.
Yep.
Like in every industry.
You know exactly what you're signing on for if you're on a contract.
There is a lot of issues though with the way contracting is done in the gaming industry.
Contractors and Justin, it's not just the gaming industry. Contractors in general are treated like shit.
Yes.
And that has been a really big issue, especially like 343 Industries has had a lot of issues with like Microsoft's contract policies and staffing, and I know Nintendo has been doing more and more work with contractors and things like that.
NOA has done a lot of contract stuff. NCL in Japan less so, I think. But I mean, I digress.
Well, there are always going to be fewer actual layoffs in any Japanese company simply due to the differing labor laws.
Mm-hmm. Japan has a lot more labor laws around this stuff, which is why you're going to see, I think a lot of our biggest losers are all Western companies, American companies especially, and a lot of our biggest winners, maybe all of our biggest winners, are Japanese companies. But I think there's more to learn from than just that. But I think if you want to look at the trend, the reason Japanese companies did so much better with layoffs is just they got better fucking labor laws to protect employees. And America is a wasteland where corporations can do anything they want to you. You are property. So let's start with some of the biggest losers of 2024 when it comes to layoffs. And I'm going to bring up an obvious one at the top, Microsoft. Microsoft went through multiple rounds of layoffs through this last year.
How many was it total?
I mean, it had to have
lost
been
track.
It was several thousand.
And I was going to say it had to be in the thousands, right?
Yes.
Well, I know.
I think if you count Microsoft total, not just the Xbox division.
No, this is just Xbox.
Was it just Xbox? Okay, shit.
Just Xbox. No, Microsoft as a whole had like.
Microsoft as a whole, it was brutal.
Yeah, Microsoft as a whole, it was like 10,000 or something like that.
But Xbox had a ton of layoffs this year, and that's very frustrating to see because, of course, they just completed this gigantic purchase of Activision Blizzard. So it's like you had money and you chose to spend it acquiring a bunch of shit and then letting go of a bunch of people.
Didn't Satya Nadella also just get a huge raise?
Well, that happened at every one of these companies we're going to talk about. Executives got massive payouts despite laying a bunch of people off.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
But what I think broke a lot of people and became maybe the single defining moment of like how ridiculous layoff culture has gotten in the gaming industry was Microsoft laying off Tango. Right, the entirety of Tango GameWorks.
They closed basically. Tango GameWorks and Arcane Austin.
Right, and at least Arcane Austin had a rough release.
Arcade Austin had a rough run, but they are
not
also
a good excuse to have one flop be the reason your studio closes. But at least that happened. Tango was insane because Tango just released maybe Microsoft's biggest success story in years. And they still got shut down.
Although I do want to reiterate, good ending to that story.
Yes, Tango has been saved.
Tango has officially reopened.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Under Crafton. Yeah. And they have the Hi-Fi Rush license.
Yeah. So, I wish they also had the Evil Within, but
they don't have Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo. Those are still with Microsoft. But
that's really great because it means that some fucking soulless Evil Within 3 is going to get made that I want nothing to do with.
You think there's going to be an Evil Within 3?
Eventually.
But Tango is alive again. Hi-Fi Rush is alive again. This is one of the very few stories that has turned out well in the wake of these layoffs.
But Microsoft is, I think, one of the biggest examples because it's so like they just made this giant purchase of Activision Blizzard.
And a lot of the layoffs were at Activision Blizzard.
Right.
By the way,
it look like an IP grab.
Derek, if I could just one of our mods in chat says in total in 2024 14,600 jobs lost.
Almost 15,000 jobs lost in the industry. I mean, it's brutal. It also sucks real bad because Microsoft as a company has been quadrupling down on AI being a like business leader for them. And I'm going to point out that every one of these tech giants that is leaning real heavy into AI right now, Microsoft, Meta, Google, they are all struggling under the weight and cost of these initiatives, and the results suck, and they're not pulling money in. Like, so it feels like Microsoft, what they did was they spent a bunch of money to experiment with AI, hoping that this fad like scam would like create investor confidence, as well as they bought Activision Blizzard basically just to acquire IPs and raise investor confidence. But then they got rid of a bunch of the people who made those games happen. So eat shit, Microsoft. Who's got another big loser for the year?
I mean, Sony too.
Derek Van Dyke. Oh, sorry, we're talking. Sorry, we're talking about companies, not people. Anyway,
Sony had layoffs at several of their studios, several of which were at flagship studios that have had decent amount of success.
Naughty Dog,
Naughty Dog and Insomniac and Guerrilla had layoffs, which like if you're laying off people at your Golden Goose Studios.
We can't forget Bungie. We can't forget Bungie.
Bungie had a shitload.
And Bungie is a mess of Bungie management. Bungie management. I was kind of talking about like the PlayStation Studios, like the core PlayStation Studios, and I was going to get to Bungie because Bungie makes me so mad. Pete Parsons.
And then
I hate you.
Pete Parsons.
Then you got Chris Barrett, who was set to make $67 million before he was thankfully canned for being a weirdo.
Incredible
sex
that
creep.
Bungie was going to pay $67 million to this man to continue raping people who worked for him. Like,
well, I don't think he was physically. I don't think he physically assaulted anyone.
Right. You're right. Okay, let me walk that back.
I don't want to make any claims that aren't true here.
He just pressured people into. I don't know.
He was a weird creep.
He was a sex pest. He was in people's he abused his. I don't want to get into fucking semantics. Fuck Chris Barrett.
But Bungie leadership, I wish they were the ones getting the axe because there's so many talented, wonderful people at Bungie that I wish were still there, that were pouring their heart and soul into the work that they did, and I love that studio.
Was Pete Parsons the guy who was bragging to employees about a sick ass Jaguar or some shit?
His fucking car collection, his Jay Leno ass car collection.
He was the guy that like bid on a bunch of like expensive collector cars like the week before laying off.
Well, if we're talking PlayStation, you've also got to talk about Firewalk, right?
Firewalk and
Concord,
Sony London.
Concord was a game made very much by Sony's decisions to chase big online service games. That is not the game Firewalk wanted to make, but they did it, and then it flopped. And then Sony, when I remember when Sony took that game offline, and they were like, we're gonna put a little more work into it and relaunch it, and that's so that lights such a fire under me, because Sony executives knew they were lying when they put that statement out. Mm-hmm. They didn't take it down, promise to relaunch it, and then change their mind. They fully intended to lay off everyone at that studio, and they lied. And people should face legal consequences for that lie.
The second they gave refunds, I knew there was no way it was coming back.
Oh, I knew it was bullshit. There was no way that they were going to actually, like, that's the thing, is sadly, like, I recognized, and I think a lot of us did, that Sony executives were lying out their ass when they said that Firewalk would get the opportunity to retool and relaunch Concord. We knew it was bullshit. But it's still very frustrating to see them say that out loud and then almost immediately walk it back. And it's, again, like, you should have to face legal consequences for a lie.
And like
that.
Also,
that's fucking manipulation. Like at that point,
and that studio was just in limbo for a couple months. Like they were getting some pitches together. They didn't know what was gonna happen. They didn't know what the plan was. Like they just, like, it was a couple months where they just had no idea what to do. Like it was just the situation sucks. Like And the thing is, that's not the only like live service game that's obviously it's the highest profile, but like
only because we didn't get to see that Last of Us live service game that got canned, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
that one Naughty Dog did actually come out and say that they realized that to do what they wanted to do with that game, they would have to become a studio that works on that game and supporting
turns out that's
game.
how it works. It turns out that chasing the live live game, like online forever game thing, is an insane undertaking. You can't multitask.
They said they literally like looked at, they're like, okay, we can do this, or we can do this and never make any single player games again, or we can go back to, and so that was what happened with that. Like it's just live service games in general are the source of a lot of these layoffs.
What I'm really afraid of,
so many of these games just, they don't get a decent player base right off the bat. And
Riot had a bunch of rounds of layoffs, right?
Yeah, Riot, who has all the money in the world. Like, it's just, it's so sad to see, because I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Like, just to see this work evaporate so quickly. Like, even if these games didn't appeal to me, like, people still worked hard on them, and people still wanted to play them. Like,
this represents a labor of people's creative energy, even if they were making to spec from something that wasn't necessarily like the thing they most wanted to make. Like, people don't make these games out of dispassion. You know what I mean?
The other side of it is, like, there is, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I'm sorry. I'll come back in a second.
It's okay. Totally I can give you one more giant loser. Maybe the biggest loser.
Well, hold on. There was a point I wanted to make real quick, and it's this. With Insomniac, my worry is that Insomniac is famous for not doing crunch culture. Like they made the Spider-Man games without resorting to crunch. And my fear is that now that these layoffs have happened at Insomniac, that is going to go by the wayside.
So we actually
crunch culture is always bad.
We actually do have some insight into how things are going to go, because of the leaked. We knew Sony
know
was
the plans anyway. How they go about it.
Was planning layoffs because there was information. There were emails and information. in the big Insomniac leak of data. And basically they have several projects that were that are coming up, and they basically said that if they did have layoffs, one of those would be kind of just put on the back burner, and they would have to move those people to other projects. So it seems like we're probably not going to be seeing Ratchet and Clank for quite a while.
Probably not. I would imagine so.
So I imagine it's probably all hands on deck for like Wolverine right now. Yeah. So I've got one more big loser before we move on to the winners. And with a medium to be our transition. Our last big loser, I think the biggest loser of the year, is fucking Embracer Group. Right? Embracer Group.
I mean, that's every year.
Well, but this was the year and the very end of 2023, right, as well, where Embracer Group, their entire business strategy, which many sharp journalists were already commenting on, saying, like, this looks like it is a scam, effectively, right? Like, not actually a scam, but that Embracer is just trying to buy and buy and buy to make what looks like a big package so that they can
trying to
sell
launder money.
Well, no, to sell to venture capital, right? They wanted Saudi money, and they wanted to sell to the Saudis. And the problem is that they didn't do it quite right, and they didn't make an attractive enough package because they didn't have enough games actually in the works. They'd canceled a few too many things. They had juggled things a little wrong. So the Saudi money never came in, which means that Embracer Group was stuck holding the bag. And it was a bag they could not afford to continue holding. So their only move forward was to just chop brutally as much shit as they possibly could. And it makes it clear that Embracer Group was never actually meant to be a games publisher. It was meant to be a purchasing and acquisitions company.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That they would sell the bag off, and it would be somebody else's job to actually run it. And I think that Embracer being maybe the first of the gigantic layoff like instances, right? Really helped set the tone and get a lot of observers and commentators on the level with like, hey, not only is something wrong, but what is going wrong appears to solely be a result of corporate greed rather than a result of actual failures by artists to create games. So, the medium kind of in between is Square Enix. Okay? Because Square Enix had some layoffs this year, had quite a few layoffs, but in North America and in Europe, Square Enix did not have layoffs in Japan.
Remember what we said about Japan, guys?
Uh-huh. And the story there is that Japan's labor laws made it a lot less attractive to have those layoffs in Japan. That's not to say you can't find ways around that, which is where Bandai Namco comes in. Because Bandai Namco,
I forgot about them.
Bandai Namco did not lay off people in Japan, but they did cancel a lot of projects, and then they did do a practice that's observed in the Japanese workforce of basically moving people to empty offices and not giving them any work to do, and waiting them out until they find another job somewhere else. Which is really dark, but is somehow more compassionate than most layoffs are, because at least people are keeping their pay and their benefits while they try to look for another company, and they get to avoid the stigma of being laid off. But that's an example of like a company that wanted to get rid of people and had to find a creative way around it. Which brings us to, I think, the two big winners, but I'm curious to hear if y'all think of more. Yes, Nintendo. Nintendo didn't lay off any other people. That doesn't surprise me too much. They had a fantastic year. Switch sales were very good. They released a bunch of very highly reviewed, very well-selling games. And then Capcom.
Capcom has been the winner, the clear winner for years now.
Capcom hasn't just avoided layoffs. Capcom has given like increases in their minimum wage and like massive raises and bonuses to their low and mid-level employees.
And they're also greenlighting riskier projects too.
And pulling record profits.
Like fucking Okami too.
I know, or Onimusha.
Holy shit.
So I know we've talked about this subject before, and especially some of the ways where Nintendo but it's usually me like going on and on about it. So I kind of want to throw this to you all to put into words. What is the commonality between Nintendo and Capcom? What are the commonalities that have them both avoiding layoffs and finding serious financial success? Because I know these answers, but
well, give me your answers then, because I'm drawing a big fat blank.
I mean, kind of building on some of the stuff that we were saying, like just about Japan as a whole. Like Japan has like, there's a pretty like big culture like around like specifically with work culture in Japan. There is kind of more of an expectation that you are going to be at one company for a long time.
Yeah.
That is something that is kind of died out. You know, in the West,
it's been dying out really bad in the tech sector in Japan too, though.
Oh, it has. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize that, but
that's where Nintendo and
Capcom are both older companies. Capcom is still family owned, if I remember right.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but
these are both companies that have kind of that legacy Japanese mindset of, you know, our employees are going to be here for a while. And I think also both of them have, you know, both of them were in pretty dire straits before the past few, like several years.
Yeah, they both bounced back from really bad spots.
Both came back from bad spots on the strength of the games that their teams made.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and they both have seemingly pretty bright futures right now.
Yeah.
A lot of work that needs to be done.
That too.
So like, they're not going to be, those are not companies that are going to be getting rid of people. And I really, really hope other studios and other publishers pay attention, because, you know, if you're cutting, you know, companies that you paid billions for as a workforce, if you are closing up studios with long history, if you are having layoffs at your flagship studios, things like that that keep happening are going to slowly eat away at everything.
So
I don't want to cut the conversation short, but we are under 30 minutes now.
Yeah,
and we have yet to talk about.
I'll get. So let me lay out my arguments, okay? And you all can tell me what you think of this. But maybe this is turning less into discussion and more Derek laying out the magic, the silver bullets, right? So there's a couple things that Capcom and Nintendo were doing, and I think these are the commonalities that are giving them this safety. They are companies that are playing it stable. They're not chasing trends. They have very diverse portfolios in terms of the games they are developing and releasing. They are spending money to retain staff year over year over year so that they have that built-in seniority of people who know how to work with their tools and design games their way and reiterate on themselves and improve, right? Instead of constantly shedding and gaining new staff, they have established teams that know what they're doing. They don't let failures lead to layoffs, right? They eat a flop and they move on. Capcom had Exoprimal. That game didn't do good. That was the exact kind of service game that flopped that has caused layoffs everywhere else. And Capcom ate the loss, whatever loss they took, and they moved on, right?
All of those Resident Evil multiplayer games that have come out.
Oh yeah.
Like,
you know, they're also making games that are all over the place in terms of cost, right? Nintendo and Capcom both. Nintendo's games, like obviously, Tears of the Kingdom was a tremendously expensive game to develop, I'm sure. Massive team, many, many, many years. But do you really think that Echoes of Wisdom was that expensive? Or Princess Peach Showtime? Or Emio the Smiling Man? You know, or Mario Party Superstars, even. The most recent one, Jamboree. Super Mario Party Jamboree is the new one. These companies both have found that they need to make games in a variety of genres, diverse portfolios, right? Some expensive, some cheaper. The cheaper ones don't have to sell as much. They've just got to keep it alive, keep people working, allow for smaller projects for their internal people to work on to build up to bigger stuff. You work on Kunitsugami before you make the big budget Onimusha, right? What these companies have done is they have broken out of the cycle of rapid growth chasing to please shareholders. And they have instead focused on retaining staff, weathering storms, and looking for growth as a natural outcome of successful artistic endeavor. Which is not to say that this is going to be the move that works for every single company. Like, sometimes chasing your passions is going to lead to bankruptcy. But sustainability only comes because you don't chase off your staff all the time. And that's what makes Nintendo and Capcom the big winners of the layoff wars, because they didn't just have, although it certainly helps that they exist in an economic system in Japan that discourages layoffs. They made the right moves to chase steady growth and to focus on their product instead of chasing trends. And I think it paid off big time. Does that make sense?
Awesome. It makes perfect sense to me.
John's like, I want to talk about the Switch.
I want to talk about, I just want to talk about anything that doesn't have to do with layoffs.
John, talk about the Switch.
Well, it's not just the Switch. I want to talk about what I'm excited about in 2025, what I want to see and what I hope to see. And I don't want it to be just me. Like, obviously I want to kind of bring us all into this conversation. Right off the bat, I mean, I got to tell you, like, obviously the thing that I am most excited about is the Switch 2. That I think that's probably the thing that most people are excited about right now is the Switch 2. Like, this is a year where we're getting a new console. And that's always an exciting thing. It doesn't matter if we're talking about PlayStation or Microsoft or Nintendo. When we know we're getting a new console in a calendar year, that's always a very exciting topic. So yeah, like you know, I'm excited about the Switch 2. I'm excited about what Nintendo is going to bring to the table in the very first year of coming off the
Smell-o-vision.
Please don't get me started on Smell-o-vision, dude. Like, every time you bring that shit up, my eyes start watering. But no, like, I'm excited to see what Nintendo is going to do coming off the tail end of their most successful system ever. But it's speaking like home console,
Switch, but 2.
Right.
I mean, that is, but for what we know, it sounds like they're doing Switch 2, which I had said for a while that the only way they could screw it up is if they decided to get
Switch
2. Yeah, if they had just decided to go, like, let's do something totally different and
abandon the hybrid. Well, and that's the thing. Nintendo was locked into the hybrid format till the end of time now.
As they should be.
If you look at their history, this is something that they've been trying to do literally since like the Super NES with ways of playing Game Boy games on the TV.
They recognize that their split development pipeline, where in the old days they needed to put some of their people making DS games and some of them on Wii games, and then some on the 3DS and some on Wii U, was hurting both pipelines. They needed to be and I think these days, as game development times have gotten longer and budgets have skyrocketed, there's just no room to try to push 2 ecosystems anymore. You need the single ecosystem.
And, you know, like I understand that people are like, oh, it's just a more powerful Switch 2. Yes. Yeah. The Switch 2 is also the greatest selling home console of all time.
Well, so I think the PS2 is still ahead of it, but it won't be for long.
No.
In the US, the Switch outsold the PS2.
In the US, the Switch is ahead. Worldwide, PS2 is currently ahead.
Because I think the European market, because Sony's always been really big in Europe.
If it doesn't beat the PS2, it will be very fucking close.
It will beat the PS2, I think, by the time all said and done. Yeah.
Probably, maybe.
It's a stone's throw away already, so.
It is Nintendo's most profitable or most successful, I don't know about profitable, but it is probably their most successful and most profitable home console.
It's also resulted in massive benefits to almost every one of their franchises. I mean, Animal Crossing is huge now in a way it never would have been before, right?
Well, and like
Luigi's Mansion 3 sold several million copies. What the fuck is going on?
Animal Crossing in a dark way, in a dark way, Animal Crossing was helped by the pandemic a great deal. But what I will say is, and this is something that I don't know that we're going to see, but I think we're going to see in 2025 is third-party games sell on the Switch, even though they are less powerful than their PlayStation and Xbox counterparts. And it's because people want to be able to take their games where they go. Look at how successful the Steam Deck has been, right? Like the PlayStation Portal, like it's not selling Switch numbers, but it doesn't have to. The PlayStation Portal sold so much higher than Sony expected it to that they were running out of it. And now they have updated that device to be able to just stream games from the cloud, which is, to be fair, something that should have been there since day fucking one.
Well, what's funny is we're now hearing that Sony might be working on their own dedicated handheld.
Yes, and we know Xbox is.
That is a very weird thing to think about when considering Nintendo found success.
It's because of the Switch. The Switch is the thing that kicked all of this off. And so what I think you're going to see in 2025, and what I'm anticipating, what I'm very excited about, is I think you are going to see more and more third-party games optimized to run on the Switch.
I think so. And everything we know about the hardware makes that significantly more viable, right? We know, and of course, there's photos of the motherboard out there now, right?
There's photos of the motherboard. We know that they've had multiple patents for DLSS or DLSS technology in the Switch 2, which it may not be as powerful as a PS4 Pro, but with everything that's under the Digital Foundry guys were talking about this, you'll probably get a PS4 Pro comparable experience.
From everything we're hearing, the Switch 2 will probably be a better system to develop for third-party developers than the Xbox is. And that's because the Xbox Series S is, for a lot of games, really difficult to work around and maintain feature parity with the Series X version. And from what we're hearing, the Switch may be easier on a couple of those bottlenecks than the Series S is. So...
And there is, and if we want to talk about games that I'm most excited about, I mean, right off the bat, Metroid Prime 4 is probably my number one most anticipated game in 2025. Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games of all time. We've been waiting for, think about Metroid Prime 4 was announced in 2017
with the Switch. Basically,
with the Switch, it was announced with the Switch, and it's not it. I'm telling you right now, this game is going to launch with the Switch 2. It's going to be a cross-gen game. Well, I mean, of course it's going to be cross-gen. Everything's backwards compatible, but
it'll be like Switch 2 enhanced.
Yeah,
I think we'll see games like that for sure.
I think it's probably. It spent so much time in development for the Switch, Derek, that it's going to be. It's
absolutely going to run on the current Switch.
I also think you can't. This game that was one of the earliest system sellers or crowd pleasers, I should say, maybe not a system seller, but one of the earliest crowd pleasers announced for the platform. It would be really fucked if it missed this. It's kind of the same reason like Breath of the Wild had to be on Wii U, right? It didn't matter how bad the port might have had to be. And you announced a Zelda game for Wii U, like you had to put that there.
I'm also excited about replaying maybe like Breath of the Wild at much higher resolution and frame rate, which we know is going to be a thing because that's what was shown behind closed doors at Gamescom.
Yeah.
So we know that some Nintendo titles are going to get patches that will cause them to run at a much higher graphical fidelity.
If they even need patches, we know Nintendo told a lot of developers, make your games run unlocked, right? Have them be ready to scale up if more powerful hardware is available to them.
Doing updates though will be good, especially if they're trying to practice with like DLSS and stuff. Because that is not something that you can just plug in.
That's true.
And Nintendo's rendering pipeline doesn't have TAA, motion blur, motion vectors.
Right. I imagine you're going to see games in general run better just because of the better hardware, but you're also going to see a lot of bigger games get those updates so that they can take advantage of and be like Switch 2, better on Switch 2 kind of.
And it'll give those teams practice, with a finished game, just working on those features before they move on to next project.
Yeah, and there's also the dock. Like we have seen a fair amount of evidence that for example,
the
dock
dock has active cooling, which means that it's definitely meant to overclock the Switch to a much higher degree and active cool it off.
I know the Digital Foundry guys are expecting that Switch games to play in 4K when they're docked.
With upscaling,
using process.
No, for sure. But like as soon as I saw those vents, guys, I was like, oh, what kind of fucking power output is this thing gonna have while it's docked? That to me. Has the wattage leaked at all?
No, we're not going to know stuff like that. But I mean, that's the thing is a system like that with an aluminum body back or something like that, put in a dock with some active cooling, like they can tweak the power. Like that's the thing. The Switch 1 currently doesn't have that in its dock.
Yeah.
Right?
Like that is the thing about the Switch 1 is like, it
powers up a little
chip.
bit when you dock it, but not that much.
It's the Tegra chip, and Nintendo actually downclocked it significantly for the portable mode for battery life, and just the way the dock is set up, it can't even go up to stock Tegra speeds.
Now,
which,
there are instances
conservative, but
there are instances in the current gen where Switch games actually run at a higher frame rate docked than they do undocked. Bowser's Fury is a good example.
Plenty
of
games
that.
because they can use more power. They basically turn off power saving mode when you dock it.
Yeah,
but it doesn't get to overclock the chip in the way it looks like you'll get to do that. Again, plus DLSS for AI upscaling. Like the Switch 2 is going to punch, from everything we're hearing, significantly above its weight class.
Yep.
It's not going to be PS5 level, but it can run that fucking Matrix tech demo. So
here's another thing that I'm expecting we'll see in 2025. Derek, this is primarily Capcom related. I think you are going to see lots of ports like Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 for the Switch.
Ooh, a lot of these games that have streaming cloud versions getting native ports.
Oh yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
110%. I think you're going to see Monster Hunter Wilds. I think you're going to see. I'm sorry, not Wilds. The one that came before World. Monster Hunter World. I could absolutely see that coming to Switch because it's not going to run fucking Wilds, and Switch fans are going to want something Monster Hunter related on the Switch. I think you're going to see the Final Fantasy VII remake and rebirth games come to Switch.
Yeah, it's feasible.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
I think you're going to see Final Fantasy 14 come to Switch. There's no reason it can't.
That would be nonsense, and I would love it.
I think that is the thing that's going to happen. I think you are going to see tons of games.
I think all the big Japanese companies that have not, which is largely Square Enix, has been very iffy, right? And Sega has been here hit and miss. You're going to see them really push with the Switch 2.
And you're
going to see stuff like Persona. You're going to see Like a Dragon.
Persona 3 and Like a Dragon will absolutely come to the Switch 2. 110%.
I think Persona 6 will come to the Switch.
I think every one of those games that had a fucking cloud version on Switch is gonna find an actual port.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see that. I think you're gonna see Xbox putting any game they put on PlayStation on the Switch too.
I agree.
Which is pretty much gonna be any game.
The bulk
that
of them.
Basically, it's gonna be anything that it can run. Like Sea of Thieves, I 100% expect Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah,
110%, Justin. 110%.
And I think obviously stuff like heavier stuff like Indiana Jones, which is used stuff like
that's
that.
Not
I don't know if the Switch will be able to run that. I think if it's able to, it would make it over. I just don't know if it.
You know who you're still not gonna fucking see on the Switch too? EA and Ubisoft.
I would agree with that.
You're not those motherfuckers are not coming back to Nintendo for anything short of bags of money dropped on their doorstep.
I'll tell you what though, dude. I'm serious. Square and Capcom are going to go fucking hard on the Switch too.
And Sega.
They're going to go fucking hard. And Sega as well. Yeah. Those three are going to go fucking hard.
Well, and the thing is that we can say those three because if you look at the other big Japanese companies, like Bandai Namco is another one of the giants, right? Bandai Namco is already all in on the Switch. And part of that is because they're so closely partnered with Nintendo in development. Like Bamco makes games for Nintendo.
Yeah. I am 110% positive that if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was coming out this year instead of last year, and it was coming out on all current gen consoles and the Switch 2, it would sell more on the Switch 2 than on PlayStation or Xbox.
Maybe. I mean, it more than on PC. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah.
But part of that Square Enix is weird.
Definitely more than on Xbox.
Yeah.
It would probably be pretty close between PlayStation and Switch. But I mean, that's still a lot more sales for the game.
Look at how many previous gen games getting put on the Switch sold stupid well. Do you think these companies aren't going to do the exact same thing?
Well, and that's the thing.
Switch
That is why I think you were going to see not all of them, but a large majority of third-party titles designed for with the Switch 2 in mind, and then those games are made obviously playable on PlayStation 5 and Xbox. That is what I think you're going to see.
If development timelines were shorter, I would agree with you. However, I think just when stuff had to start and like what they were, having to spec out when they started.
Right. Well, I just mean like going forward, like starting when the Switch 2 releases.
Well, they're gonna make it in. Here's the thing. Again, from what we're hearing, if you're developing games for the Xbox Series X and S, you're already ready for a Switch 2 version, because the Switch 2 is going to be less bottlenecked in certain regards than the Series S already is.
Well, and I also think with like both Microsoft and Sony like talking a little bit about potential, handheld companion devices.
Yeah, they're going to want companies to make games that can run on weaker handheld hardware.
So they're going to want that too, and I think Switch 2 versions will also benefit that when that comes. And I think going forward we'll kind of see like the Series S, Series X model for both PlayStation and Xbox. However, I think it's going to be the handheld console and then the home console.
One thing we haven't talked about with all these Switch leaks is, I'm calling it now. I think this thing's getting announced next week.
I think it's feasible, and I'll tell you why. There's a little bit of smoke, although not fully substantiated, that this is still going to hit by end of March.
I've seen that as well. Yeah.
And if you look at the original Switch, the original announcement for the Switch was in like October, right?
But the actual reveal.
It was just a teaser where it's like, here's the concept. They didn't do the first presentation for the Switch
until they didn't call it the Switch until.
No, I think it was called reveal. The Switch. It was called the Switch.
No. It was the NX.
No. Because it was the Switch, because it was that first teaser video that showed like Mario and Skyrim, remember, on a plane.
Yeah,
Skyrim on a plane.
That was in December, I believe.
No, it was called Switch, and it was in October. But we didn't get the presentation where they talked details and talked games.
I gotcha.
Until January, and then they released in March. And the thing is, then they had to explain to people what the Switch even was.
What the fuck this thing is,
because it's not something that had been done quite like that before. But also, too, they didn't have shit they were selling over the holiday season, right? They were just trying to. They knew they weren't selling Wii U's. Right now, Nintendo had Switches to sell over the holiday season, and now that's over. So if this thing's coming out in March or April or May, you can absolutely. It's time to just go ahead and show this motherfucker off now that. It's over.
If nothing else, like the whole fucking thing is gonna leak at this rate.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like Nintendo needs to stick their finger in the dam and just get it over with.
I'm not leaning towards like March, but I think this thing is out in May or June.
I think it's our first half of the year. This is not holiday season.
First half of the year.
I don't think it's past the halfway point.
No. I agree.
I think May or June is probably when this thing's gonna be releasing.
I agree.
June would be insane.
What do you think about Justin? What do you think about an announcement next week?
I don't know. I've said this before. I don't like trying to predict what Nintendo's going to do because Nintendo is Nintendo. Yeah, like there's a lot of information out there at this point. I just kind of want to see some games. And
that's a big thing. We know what this is. I just want to see the games.
Yeah, because like it doesn't even seem like the physical design is going to be changing all that much. It really just seems like it's going to be another Switch.
So to address something that Azim said in chat, wouldn't they want something to show off for Summer Games Week?
Oh, they're going to have some Summer Games Fest shit.
No, you'll have some Summer Games Fest shit. the rumor, that was floating around was that this is going to launch with the new Mario Kart game. Now, whether or not that happens, I guess we'll see. It does feel like it's time for a new Mario Kart. We did just have
our first console in God knows how long to not have its own Mario Kart. How long has it been?
Yeah,
since the original NES have we had a Nintendo system that didn't have a Mario Kart.
It's also wild because like Mario Kart 8 is so ridiculously huge. And it was technically just a Wii U remaster.
Yeah.
Didn't that thing put up damn near like GTA 5 sales numbers? Like it's
I'm going to look up Mario Kart 8 total sales and it's going to be insane.
It's tens of millions. I know that. Like
it's tens and tens of millions, I think. But I mean,
65 million copies.
See, there you go. Like, 65
million
million fucking like Mario Kart is probably honestly their biggest IP at this point. And it does feel, guys, like we're due for a brand new Mario Kart.
Oh, it's the 5th highest selling game of all time. Yeah, only behind Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Wii Sports, which is a pack-in that doesn't really count.
Yeah,
and PUBG. What the fuck?
Yeah,
PUBG is huge in Asia. Huge.
It's gotta be. That's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, we're absolutely due for. In fact, I think it's more likely we get a new Mario Kart than. I think it's more likely we get a new Mario Kart before a new 3D Mario.
I think so.
Which, by the way, I want to point out, this has been the longest period between 3D Marios since the launch of Mario 64.
I still believe we're getting that 3D Donkey Kong before we get a 3D Mario.
Give it up, man. It's not. I would love it too.
It's me and Rar. It's me and Rar sitting here.
I think it's more likely we get a new Diddy Kong Racing. At
coping hard, man.
You know what else is coming out soon, Derek?
Monster Hunter.
Suikoden 1 and 2
remaster. Monster Hunter. I'll tell you, hey, I got a prediction for you next year or this year, John. The only reason anyone is going to hear from me after February 28th is because I will be streaming Monster Hunter daily on this fucking channel. It's the only way any of you are going to interface with me at all. So enjoy that.
So I'm getting a new Metroid Prime and a new Doom this year.
We are getting a new Doom.
I don't need anything else, but there are several other things I'm looking forward to. Ghost of Yote, I'm very much looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, that is coming out this year.
Hopefully Death Stranding 2 makes it out. There's some really good stuff this year that I'm really excited for. And I think we're also just seeing some seeing some really interesting stuff, like especially with like Microsoft's release schedule and things like that. Like Doom Dark Ages, fully multi-platform on day one. Outer Worlds 2 is going to be fully multi-platform on day one. Indiana Jones is already confirmed to be coming to PS5 in the spring.
You know what I will.
It'll be interesting to see how some of that pans out. Like 2024 was a rough year for the industry, but I have a lot of hope for this year. I think there's going to be some really, really cool stuff coming out.
I think it's so based on something in chat. I think it's far more likely we get an RE5 remake announcement this year before we get an RE9 announcement.
No, RE9's coming first.
Yeah, 9 is definitely coming first.
John, I need you to listen to me. John, RE9 is coming next for the Resident Evil team.
All right.
I need you to. Who's the main player?
Who's the player character going to be?
I don't know that.
No, I want you to fucking tell me who you want.
Oh,
I think it's time for Leon. I think it's time for Leon again.
It's probably going to be Leon. I wish it was Jill. But it's probably going to be Leon.
I would love it.
This needs to be the game where Leon, Chris, Jill all get their final hurrah before we move the fuck on from the old crew. And we haven't had Jill show up in the timeline since RE5. So like it's time.
Yeah, we need Jill to show up. And
but no, I'd love to see Jill or Claire or even Rebecca Chambers make an appearance.
Resident Evil 9 has been in development since before Village released. I need you to understand that. 9 has been in development for a stupid long time.
I don't think this is going to be a first-person game. I think it's going to be a third-person over-the-shoulder game.
It won't be. I know it's not.
And I think it's going to hew much closer in tone to the original games than 7 and 8.
We'll have to see. I don't know much about that. I know some shit about what's going on inside Capcom, and one of the things I will very confidently tell you is RE9 is coming the fuck up. So
I also don't think 7 and 8 are actually all that far off of the tone of the originals, unless you count how goofy the live action stuff in the first game got.
I think 8 tried to replicate the tone from 4, and I think for the most part it did. It got a little weird at the end with, people turning into huge machines and, like.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Village was so good, dude. We just don't.
Village was good. Like don't get me wrong.
So
Village
fucking
was
good, dude. You don't even know.
But I feel like we could do a whole other podcast about shit we're excited about, because I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
We can kind of even hold on to that because there's a lot coming up over the year. So
let's put a pin in this and revisit it next week, because we are over our time anyway. Derek, when is the holiday party?
Shit, I think January 11th, Saturday, January 11th.
January 11th.
Remember the exact time. It's going to be going on for a long time. So, show up. Good vibes, good companionship, music, the crew being there.
Be in our Discord, by the way.
In the Discord.
It's in our Discord.
Beebity boobity boop.
Also, if you are in the Discord, shout out to Rar here for organizing this every year. We're having the draft for our 2025 Fantasy Critic League. So that is on Sunday, I think at noon. Rar, correct me if I'm wrong.
It depends on the league.
6 p.m. Eastern, or is that?
That's the holiday.
That's
party.
the holiday party. Okay, I believe
John,
the draft.
Go in the times for the. Yeah, your draft is. It depends on which league you're in.
Okay, so
I don't know how Fantasy Critic works, and I refuse to learn.
But yeah, Fantasy Critic is a good time. This year is going to be very fun because there's a lot of big stuff.
Yes,
coming out this year.
This is going to be a very, very interesting one. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of a slow week. But we were able to make it work. So we will be back next week. I think we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about
whatever happens, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're also. I think we're gonna have part 2 of our conversation about what we're looking forward to.
I would like to, unless there's a lot of big news. I think talking about what we look forward to for the year will be very fun. Now,
if we get that Switch 2 announcement next week, that's a whole different ball game.
We'll see what happens.
So we'll see. But guys, thank you for coming in tonight. Remember, kindness costs nothing, and we will see you right back here next week.